With so many options, why choose Arizona State University?
For me, the only online option was ASU because of the quality. Their faculty was really involved with their students and care about your personal journey. The dedication to my personal development from my professors, that's been extremely valuable to me.
Earn your degree from the nation's most innovative university. Online. That's a degree better. Explore more than 300 undergraduate, graduate, and certificate programs at asuonline.asu.edu.
What did I do wrong?
You like that?
Just listen.
This is old-fashioned ass kicking right here.
And that's a fact.
Edwards takes a run on Beal off the Randall screen, pops on the three and seals the win. Anthony Edwards, a 40-point game here in the desert, and the Wolves lead by 14 with 2 minutes left to play.
Anthony Edwards finished that Sunday victory over the Phoenix Suns with 44. We welcome you to a Talker Tuesday from the Minnesota Vikings facility in Eagan, Minnesota, Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Hall of Famer Jared Allen joins the radio show about 30 minutes from now. But first, one of our very favorites, Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland, 2harvest.org, and a Prize Picks. And here comes Finchy. Head coach Chris Finch. Paul Allen, what's going on, bud?
Hey, PA, how you doing?
All right, man. Thanks for the time. Wonderful win in Phoenix Sunday. You guys have beaten the Suns 7 consecutive times by an average of 11 points per game. Why so dominant against Devin Booker, KD, legitimate big-time players, and the Phoenix Suns?
Yeah, it's weird. I mean, we lost 4 straight before that run. So, going into the playoffs last year, we had to really relook at how we played them, how we guarded them, what we did against them, and what we could do against them offensively. That was the benefit of having a week to prepare, gave us, and having taken our lumps for 4 games prior to that. So we just had to kind of reimagine how we played those guys. And, both of us have been different versions of ourselves since that playoff series. But, our guys certainly take the challenge of guarding that elite talent that they have, and that's where it really begins and ends.
What what facet does that involve? Just like a nugget, is it switching? Is it over or under on picks? Like, what goes into it?
Well, yeah, I mean, listen, like, those guys are such great ISO scorers. Like, you really can't give them space to play by themselves. You got to crowd them as much as you possibly can. Try to take the ball out of their hands. They're just such great offensive players that, even though we have good defensive players, it's still tough to leave them one-on-one all game. And just, we got to try to change up the looks all the time, keep them off balance, all the things you need to do to great players.
Anybody at Footprint Center ask you how things are going with the knee, given that was the home of the topple?
Yeah, I have a few courtside comments, but generally everyone was super nice.
I think the evening you went down, I think Kevin Johnson, the former outstanding Suns point guard, was like right behind you. I think, didn't he used to be the mayor of Sacramento?
Yeah, he was at one point. Yep, that's right.
Yeah, he was quite the player, quite the underrated player in that he played in a generation that MJ was taking off, and there were just so many good players. Kevin was slithery and sneaky, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was. Was on some really, really good teams. The team that went to the finals and lost to the Bulls, so had a heck of a career.
What's the feel with Anthony Edwards the rest of the way? Do you think he'll get any more tees this season, or did the suspension, in what ways did it open his eyes?
Yeah, I think, listen, he's been here before, and in previous seasons he's gone to the brink, and he's done a good job in those situations of being able to kind of control his emotions. I expect he'll be able to do the same here down the stretch with what's on the line. If, we were very disappointed in the suspension the other day. He knows how disappointed we were and how much we missed him and what it cost us. So that alone should be enough of a lesson, and let's hope that it is.
Well, the whole situation at L.A. just had to have you pulling your hair out, right? I mean, it was an uncalled block on Gabe Vincent, and then that kind of opened the floodgates. And not that it's acceptable, but it was just a confluence of events that led to it, right?
Yeah, it was frustrating, a series of events. I think it was a bit of a kind of overreaction all the way around. But the bottom line is, we put ourselves in jeopardy by being at the threshold of technicals, and, you leave yourself vulnerable to that type of kind of, let's say, randomness.
How did this would be a question for Anthony, but I don't have access to Anthony, so I'll ask you. How did he handle missing the Utah game?
Yeah, he was definitely disappointed. We spent a good time chatting on the day of the game about things. I know he was feeling bad that he wasn't going to be there, knows he lets the team down, and was, very hopeful that his teammates would pull through and get the win, because every win right now is extremely valuable. So, I think he felt even worse after we weren't able to. Just not a great 48 hours all the way around right there. But, luckily we were able to respond and play well, and he played really well in Phoenix. Right.
What does one do on a suspension day in Salt Lake City? I mean, do you go skiing in Park City? Do you watch the game in the locker room? Like how's that work?
Well, the NBA rules say that you have to leave the arena 2 hours before tip-off.
No.
So you could come in and get your normal pregame work in, but you have to be gone out of the arena. So he just watched the game in his room.
Ooh, wow. Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, weekly 9 to noon. Philly is at Target Center this evening, back-to-back with Charlotte tomorrow. Then Chris's team is at Miami later in the week, then San Antonio here on Sunday. Julius Randle returned on Sunday, and he was quite the menacing presence at Phoenix, wasn't he?
Yeah, it was great to have him back. His activity, his physicality, his playmaking. We didn't shoot the ball particularly well early on around him. I thought he did a good job of creating a lot of shots. It's nice to have a big body out there again, who hits first, both sides of the ball. He looked sharp in his return.
And given Julius missed 12 games and really a month and small change of games, Chris, what was particularly good with him off the layoff? I mean, you'd seen him in practice and you knew he was good to go or you wouldn't have played him. But was there ever a moment in that game where you're like, damn, he hasn't played in a month. Look at that.
Yeah. I mean, he's done a great job of working hard to come back. I believe he probably back a week or so earlier than we initially expected. So that's a credit to him and the medical personnel that have been working with him. He's a great worker anyway. He's always in the gym. His fitness level was what I noticed was pretty much on point. That's probably the biggest thing when you come back. It's hard to, replicate game conditioning, of course, but I didn't really notice anything. kind of any big drop off there. We did try to keep his runs a little shorter than normal, but yeah, I think he looked sharp from a fitness point of view, and he looked really explosive.
So, I in knowing you as long as I have, I know you're not a load management kind of guy, but with Philly here tonight and at Charlotte tomorrow, does Julius play both or skip one, given he just came back?
No, he'll play both. We'll certainly be mindful of minutes, particularly with these guys that are returning to play after being off for extended period of time for injury. And just, it might be the number of minutes or the way that they play, the length of their runs or how long they sit, or these all things we have to consider. But he's slated to play both games.
With the game at Phoenix, beside the fact that they never beat you all of a sudden, they scored just 38 points in the middle quarters. I mean, it was fantastic. What stood out to you with the defense in those middle frames?
We were able to generate turnovers, and that came from our activity. We had great hands in and around the ball. I thought our on-ball defense was really good. We were more disruptive, and we challenged the team. We've been inconsistent at times on the ball this year, and it was our calling card a year ago. So we got back to being who we are on the ball. We were able to create some turnovers there. Our fly-around defense was good. We got a lot of turnovers off of that. I mean, Dante in particular was outstanding. I think he had six steals. Many of them were kind of off the ball, reading the passing lanes. He's really, really good at that. And so, to me, that was what kind of signified the game for us, is just the way we were able to generate turnovers.
And with all those steals, man, he hit 8 threes. I mean, is he as comfortable right now as you've seen this season?
Yeah, again, huge credit to him too, coming in off injury. He's been coming back a little bit more on a minutes restriction, but he's looked great. Doesn't look rusty at all. Been playing with physicality. A lot of just looks comfortable, like he's never really been gone. Not trying to figure out how he's going to fit back in. And I thought we did a really good job of locating him the other day, and he was able to benefit from it.
Clearly off the win, and with some of these teams you have coming up, I mean, it's time to make a run, right? I mean, and get out of that play-in bit or get away from it. The rest of your opponents have like a 43% winning percentage. So, I mean, anybody can beat almost anybody any day. I understand that, but do you sense the players are engaged and really understand the importance of this final 20-ish games?
Yeah, I do. That was a large part of our discussion the other day after Utah, when we got together. We talked about what the last 21 games meant. What we had to do, what we had to recapture. Whether it be our defense had to get better, or reintegration of everybody as they start coming back from injury, how that's going to affect roles and opportunities and all this stuff. And, we had to kind of frame it for our guys and look at where we are in the standings. And yeah, we do have a favorable schedule when it comes to opponent win percentage, but we've also shown the capacity to not play well, against some of those teams and not have the right consistent approach, or have a 5-minute letdown that costs you the game. So, that we have to choose whether we want that to be an advantage for us, or we're going to let it continue to be, a banana peel that we keep slipping on.
And as the leader of the team, as the coach, like, how does one guard against human nature? I mean, looking at Philadelphia got killed last night, is not going to be a playoff team, is without Embiid the rest of the year, and is traveling on a back-to-back. So, I mean, those who know that might think tonight, could be easier than it really is. How do you guard against that?
Well, I like to start with a simple question, PA. I just like to say, for whom is this game more important? And if you can answer that question, then it should basically fuel you and funnel you to the right direction and the right approach. And that's what we need. And that's what these games are. When we've determined that our playoffs started already. And we got to have that type of mentality. And we did the other night in Phoenix. So we got to keep doing it. So it's a choice that you make. The guys made the right choice the other day, and I'm confident that they'll continue to make the right choice, but it's really going to be up to them when they come to work today.
For these Sixers, Tyrese Maxey is pretty much all they have some games. A very, very nice player, isn't he?
Yeah, great player. I mean, just one of the fastest guys in the league with the ball for sure. He's a one-man fast break, can go coast to coast. He's got deep range, can score at all ranges, really. He's got a mid-range jumper. He can get to the rim at a high level, can fill it up from deep, create his own offense, plays with a lot of joy. That's what I like about him. So he's a handful. You know, he lit us up last time we faced these guys for a big number, and he's obviously going to be key to take him out of the game.
When it comes to the opponent and players they are using or not using, like for instance, you know, Philly was without Paul George and Kelly Oubre in that loss to Portland last night. How do you prepare or determine? You know, like, do you think they're going to dust those guys off tonight? Because clearly, if they don't, it's a different game.
Yeah, I mean, we have to prepare for. You know, we always prepare for everybody at full strength, unless we know that they're definitely out. And then you just got to be ready to make adjustments. And one of the biggest adjustments that you have to make is your mental approach. You know, it doesn't mean just because their big guns aren't playing that the other players aren't going to play hard and do their thing. That's the ironic part about playing teams, you know, down the stretch here who might be resting guys or, you know, playing for lottery picks or just all banged up, is that, you know, the other talent wants to show who they are, what they can do, and it's a perfect time to do so. And they often get an extended period of time to do it. So, you know, we've just gone through a period with a bunch of injuries, and our young players stepped up and played at a super high level, and that was all down to opportunity. And so these opportunities come up for these players, and they're hungry as heck to go out there and show you what they can do.
Well, and off that, you know, the healthier you get, Julius is back, DiVincenzo's back, Gobert hopefully back soon. When it comes to the contribution, specifically Terrence Shannon Jr. and Jalen Clark gave you, Dillingham to a certain extent too, when their minutes are most likely going to be cut the rest of the way with the veterans playing, at least, you know, that's what we saw in the Phoenix game. Do you have chats with those guys into the game?
Yeah.
Or is it just understood?
Yeah, no, both. I mean, we have chats with them. We have obviously. I try to speak to the team about what's coming, and you know, and then I also talk to the individuals and stay ready. And you know, sometimes it'll be situational. And the worst thing that a player can do, a young player in particular, is kind of not be ready. You know, not stay ready mentally. Physically, and then you may go a couple games where you don't play, and then you get called on to play, and you're not ready, and it shows, you know. And then then we lose confidence in that individual when that happens. So I know it's tough. It's hard to play everybody. You know, one of the benefits of having young depth is when you do get, you know, take injuries and you are able to throw guys out there and they respond. It's great, and we'll still keep playing them. And you know, sometimes like I said, it'll be situational. And I mean, Rob didn't get in the other night, but that doesn't mean he's not going to get in tonight. So he's got to be ready to play. If his number's called, then that's part of it all.
With two more, thank you for the time. With Terrence, what was eye opening with the big minutes he got? Like I don't watch a lot of college basketball, and he hadn't played a lot for you guys. Yeah. But during the time, you know, he's playing high 20s, maybe low 30s in the minutes. His fearless nature, it just seems like whether you're winning or losing, I mean, he's just like a ball of butcher knives. I mean, he goes at it hard all the time.
Yeah, that's what we love about him. He really gives us a legitimate transition threat and a consistent one, which we haven't really had. And he's a downhill driver. He gets fouled a lot just because of the force that he plays with, and that's a benefit. He shot the ball pretty well. That's probably, the one thing he needs to continue to work on. He knows who he is as a player. He's physically ready to play in the NBA right now. He rebounds at a good level for the wing position. His defense has to continue to improve. Some of that's just, kind of welcome to the NBA stuff. I think that'll get better. He has the body and the tenacity to be a really good defender. The more he, evolves into a two-way player, of course, that's what we all want. But, we felt that he was physically ready to play when we drafted him, and it was just kind of getting comfortable with, who we are, what we do, how we do it, and getting some NBA reps.
All right, last one. Next home game after tonight is San Antonio here Sunday, 7 o'clock Target Center. I watched their game Sunday night against OKC, and boy, they came out full of fire, man. They hit 10 three-pointers in the first quarter Sunday, and without Wemby, are they just chucking it up from all angles?
Well, yeah, the ball's moving around. They don't, they play with great pace. De'Aaron Fox plays so fast. He can get to the heart of the defense quickly. And when that happens, you're going to create a lot of three-point shot opportunities because you're going to have to force the defense to kind of collapse and sink around those early attacks by Fox. And it's just, again, it's one of those things like Wemby's a great player. They're clearly going to be a better team when he's out there and on the floor and the focal point of everything that they do offensively and defensively. But the opportunity for others now to step up and play a slightly different style, which might benefit them, is what you're seeing there. And a lot of it will revolve around shot making, and shot making can be a little bit volatile. But when they're going in, like we saw the other day, they're just like anyone else. They're a really, really good team.
Did you like Stephon Castle out of UConn? He speaking of having a fearless nature, that's a fearless player right there. He might be really good.
Yeah, he's going to be really good. He's fearless and physically ready to play as well. He's got a big body. He knows how to use it. And I always like to look at these guys who just, every time you check in with them, throughout the season. Of course, I don't watch all the San Antonio games, but every time I check back in every once in a while and see him play, I'm like, this guy's gotten significantly better than the last time I saw him. And when you're young and you can point to that, it usually bodes well for your accelerated growth curve here.
Appreciate you, man. Good luck against the Sixers tonight, then the Hornets, then the Heat. And I'll see you Sunday at Target Center with Kevin Lynch and I calling the game on radio.
That's going to be fun.
Can't wait.
Thanks,
Thank you, brother. Chris Finch, coach of the Minnesota Timberwolves, courtesy of Second Harvest Heartland and 2harvest.org, along with Prize Picks. And that's part of the Timber Tech What's on Deck set list, which includes HOF Radio. About 15 minutes from now, Jared Allen, one of the great defensive players in the history of Vikings football, joins yours truly from the TCO radio studio at Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center. Nordo produces, and I'm Paul Allen. Around the corner, some Vikes Bites on FM 100.3 KFAN.
9 to noon. Man.
Vikes Bites. Welcome back. Welcome back, 9 to noon. Vikes Bites always presented by Thousand Hills Lifetime Grazed Grass-Fed Beef. And you can shop online, and you can find a box of meat will show up at your doorstep. You can learn about regenerative agriculture and the nutrient-dense meat. Or you can go to your local Coburns, Kowalski's, your local co-ops. They're proud sponsors of Gophers Athletics as well. So love you, Thousand Hills. Aww. And after some news courtesy of Adam Schefter, it is becoming more and more apparent, potentially, that this is the last touchdown that we've heard from this guy.
Here we go. First down from the Rams, 26. Darnold, shotgun again, four-man rush, straight drop. He's going to throw over the middle. Caught T.J. Hawkinson at the 20. Heads to the left to the 10 to the 5. Touchdown, Vikings! T.J. Hawkinson! Hawkinson's first 2024 touchdown takes place in 2025, and they needed it like they needed to breathe.
Sam Darnold, according to Adam Schefter, news coming out yesterday, PA, that the team, it is unlikely that the Minnesota Vikings will be able to apply the franchise tag to Sam Darnold before today's 3 p.m. Central deadline. Now, he does include, which is interesting to me, Minnesota still is interested in working to re-sign Darnold, but it is unlikely to be without any tag. So no tag for Sam. We've had this conversation multiple times. Is it J.J. McCarthy's time? Tag and trade, all of these various possibilities that is at the fingertips of Kwesi Adolfo-Mensah. But what do you think about that news? And as we inch closer and closer to free agency?
Yeah, the situation's quite perplexing to me. Maybe it shouldn't be as perplexing as it is, but I have a high level of respect for something that's age old. When somebody does something at that level at which Sam Darnold did last year, they're supposed to get better the next year because everything is second nature. So I respect that. But in my heart, I don't believe he's the A topic for the quarterback here next year. But I also respect signing him somehow and trading him and getting currency for it, because after the Stafford news came down, and with the way this draft is perceived with quarterbacks, I just think there's a market for him. And, let's not forget how downtrodden the 49ers were when he left. And that was fact. That was fact from some significant insiders with the 49ers organization. And Brock Purdy, he's sitting on potentially a big fat deal, but when I said a couple of years ago, I think Sam Darnold gives them a better chance to advance through the postseason than Brock Purdy, I meant it. And the way Darnold played last year is every bit as good as Brock Purdy ever has played. So just keep that in the back pocket. Problem is, I don't know how you get there.
Vikes Bites, one more quick one, and I know our next guest, we don't want to be late for that, but one thing in thematic nature to 9 to noon this week, pushing our way through potential free agent names. The Vikings, we are expecting them with their cap space to be active early and often as soon as the legal tampering period, as weird as that term sounds, as long as when that opens up on Monday, that the Vikings will be talking about some potential free agents, including Darius Slay. PA is a little long in the tooth. He's 34. He was released yesterday. The Eagles are also releasing, it sounds like, James Bradbury. So a couple more corner names to throw in your pocket, some feathers in your cap as we continue throughout the week leading up to free agency.
Yeah, Big Play Slay's had a really, really nice career. I wonder what Philadelphia is angling at by doing this. It might be to re-sign that nice three technique, that nice defensive tackle, Milton Williams. But Darius has played for quite some time and mostly at a very high level. When 9 to noon continues, we have HOF Radio. Jared Allen going into the National Football League Hall of Fame. He'll join 9 to noon from Twin Cities Orthopedics Performance Center at FM 100.3 KFAN.
Man.
To noon.
Well, the more things change, the more they stay the same. And what I mean by that is Jared Allen, one of the great defensive players, not only in the history of Minnesota Vikings football, but the history of the NFL, has joined us at the TCO radio studio, recently inducted into the Pro Football Hall of Fame after 12 seasons with 4 teams, 6 with the Vikings. My man had 136 sacks, 32 forced fumbles, 6 interceptions, and 2 defensive touchdowns. And the more things change, the more they stay the same, as you'll see at Vikings.com. He just rolled in with the freshest Stetson. Is that new? That cowboy hat's the bomb. And good morning.
Good morning. I've actually had this one for a while. I just reshaped it the other day. So
how does one reshape a hat?
Steam.
Really?
Yeah. So when you heat up the felt, when you heat up the with steam, it becomes pliable, and then when it dries, it forms in its shape.
So why does one need to reshape a hat? Is your head getting bigger with this HOF?
No, they get beat up, so the heads they flatten out. So depending on how you lay it down, it flattens out. These are old hats. I've actually had these hats for a long time.
Yeah.
So just try to bring some new life to them. I don't really have. I guess I have like one hat, my hat that I wore at my wedding. That's kind of my dress hat. All my other hats get worn for everything.
What's the long play with the hair? Because we've seen. I mean, your hair looks fantastic.
Oh yeah,
it's got a flow to it right now.
Yeah, it's always
man.
got the mall. Yeah, I'm a little long up top right now. I got to get the top and sides trimmed up, but the back will always stay long. You know, when you got a face for radio, you got to have some killer hair.
Oh, I mean, I haven't felt my ribs in 30 years, and that's why I've done radio nearly 30 years because I got a face for it. Jared, by the way, is off to Canton next week for orientation. What's that all about?
Don't know. Haven't been there
Sounds like first day of school stuff.
It's a lot of logistical stuff. I'll be honest. I'm starting to realize that the whole term like, hey, we're honoring you. This is in your honor. That just means you got to do a bunch of stuff you don't want to do for free.
Right.
That's what that means. Yeah.
Right.
So I don't know. We're going up there. My kids are super stoked because I heard spring break in Canton. It's like this time of year. It's just beautiful.
Right.
Yeah, the rivers are flowing.
Did you ever play in the Hall of Fame game?
Nope. Never. I'm
sure you missed 5 preseason games, right?
So I've never been to Canton. I'm excited about that. I'm a history buff. Like I love history. I think just that's one reason I love traveling to Europe so much. Just the amount of age on things, right? And just what the buildings and what the landscape and the stories tell over there. So I'm excited to go in and see the museum and actually kind of see football history from its beginnings, from its origins, and be able to kind of feel what that's like. Just because it's the story of the game we love to play, and what's been such a blessing in my life.
With you being the history buff that you are, and you mentioned you like to go to Europe, so like England, France, Spain, just so many. Can you imagine how eye-opening it would be for you if you went to like parts of Egypt? Or Israel?
Oh, I've been to Egypt.
Have you?
So I've been to
like
Egypt.
The ancient Near East, as it would be called in the Bible?
Yep. So, and it's funny, I'm actually just reading in Genesis right now, right? And Egypt was actually one of the sons, I think, of Shem, one of Noah's, basically like a grandson of Noah. No, so yeah, Egypt was cool, man. Egypt was crazy because in all the buildings, clearly the earth has built up over time. But you're literally walking around these places, which used to be the ceilings of the churches or whatever.
Yeah.
But depending on who was in rule and who was in place, they would wipe out the culture completely.
Wow.
So, and then as time and people dig up these cities, you see where, the walls have been whitewashed over all Muslim signs, right? Then you got the hieroglyphics from when ancient Egypt were there. But then when the Christians ruled it, you have all the Christian artifacts, and they would just use the same buildings and just completely destroy and wipe out the other people's drawings and stories and stuff like that.
Damn.
So it's cool to see. You'll go through these some of these buildings, and you literally you're seeing like multiple sections of time just all at once from different centuries, and it's a pretty cool deal.
It's so astonishing. How much does it astonish you how the pyramids were built? It's unbelievable.
I've been inside the Great Pyramid. I've stood inside it, right? Like I had to literally crawl into the middle of it, which is kind of creepy and eerie.
It's like you're getting mummified.
It doesn't. I don't know that there's words to explain it because I'm 6'6", right? And one of those blocks is as tall as me,
right?
And twice as long,
yeah.
And it's like, I don't know what, I mean.
Multiple tons.
Even with multiple. So how, you have there's not even an excavator that can move that.
Yeah.
In modern days. So it truly is a wonder of how they built it and how they built it. I mean, and you think about it relatively in a short time.
Yeah. Yeah, right.
I mean, nobody knows exactly how long.
Could have taken 30 years, but that's a speck of time.
But that's a speck of time. So I think one of the cool things about being in that part of the world, you feel very minuscule, right? You feel, I think you realize, especially our country is so young. And when you're over there, I think for me, from a faith standpoint, is, some parts of the Middle East, life and death is a real struggle every day, right? You're facing things that are life and death every day. And so their faith is, legit. I mean, based on what they're going to eat that day, if they're going to live that day. So when I came home, I wasn't on like a missions trip or anything like that. I was actually on safari, and we came back through Egypt and walking through the museums, the Cairo Museum, by the way. If you're in a museum guy, you can spend a week in that place. That place is insane.
So a safari in Africa?
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah. So that was cool. This was all back in 2009. I was actually with Larry Fitzgerald. We did a USO tour and then just kind of made our way back. And I tell you what, it just, you look at it and you look at just the dire, some of the ruggedness. I don't know how to try. It's so raw, it's so untouched, but it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
but you watch people how they live, and you take for granted how civil we actually are, right? And you're like, oh, you know what? How many times do you get up and do you thank God for the grocery store being there? People,
amen.
You just think,
no matter what the cost, right? No matter what they cost.
Yeah, you're like, there's eggs, there's milk, right? Or, well, people panic, or like pandemic, everybody comes and wants to get toilet paper, like go take a shower.
I would imagine with a heart like yours, you get into a place like that and you're like, damn, I want to give you every penny I have to help things here. And when I have free time, I want to come back and help you myself.
Well, it's crazy but a lot of times they're not asking for help, right? That's life for them. So we walked through a village in Africa, and this was hilarious. So we're walking in this village. We were in Zambia, and we're down in this village, and you know, we're talking to the chief or the guy who runs the village, and so they still have a community fire. One guy's job is to tend the fire. They bring in, you know, waters from the well and stuff like that, and they're living in mud huts. And this guy comes running out, and he sees there's a group of us. He's like, NFL, right? It's me, Fitz, and Boomer, and we're looking out at him. He's like, brings us into his hut. And the mud hut is about the size of this studio.
Yeah.
Right? Cut in half, where they have the little living room and then the beds, and you got family.
Wow.
Right? You got multiple kids. But on that wall was a 65-inch plasma with a DirecTV satellite on top.
Well, how do they get a signal?
A DirecTV.
Oh, right.
Yeah, DirecTV. It was. So I'm talking to the guy, and he's like, the guy's like, we choose. So we were telling us, like, we choose to live like this. This is how our ancestors lived.
Right.
Like, we didn't go live in town. A lot of us work in town.
Wow.
But we choose to live like this. We choose a certain path.
Right.
And so it was
simplicity.
It's simplicity, but to hear them talk about just the way of life it is, you know, and we saw it in Egypt too. You know, kids paddling with their hands on the Nile and catching fish, trying to sell things to like cruise passengers coming up the Nile. Man. But then you go talk to people who are selling rugs, and then, you know, no joke, I saw more DirecTVs on things that I was like, how does that even get there? But again, and that was I think what struck me about being over the Middle East as well, like. There were some things that were crazy, that looked dire, that, you know, but that was life. And like I said, and people were fine with it. They were fine with their plot. I mean, again, you're not having that in depth of conversation, but people weren't asking for anything. You know, even when we were in Africa, we were talking about, well, that was the part that we used to wanted to send books and stuff, because, you know, the kids, they don't have a lot of money over there, obviously, so they go to school for half a day, then they work half the day. Yeah. They're picking weeds, or they're cleaning, and I'm like, man, we need to bring some of these tactics back to our school.
Installing DirecTV in a mud hut.
Yeah, you know what I mean?
It's a hell of a job.
These kids got work ethic. We need some, we're spoiled over here.
Jared Allen, HOF defensive end for the Minnesota Vikings. After the induction, who reached out to you, like maybe you haven't heard from in quite some time? Anybody is like, damn, honey, look who wrote. Yeah, you know what? I'd have to go through my text messages. You know, Tom West, he hit me up. You know, that guy. Seriously. Like, Tom's sitting in the room right now. Right. I'm trying to think who would probably be the most random. About like Kevin Williams. I talk to Kevin probably once a month at least. That's why I love Kevin. Him and I talk probably once a month, and we're totally good with that. Ray Edwards? No, I haven't talked to Ray. Ray being like, hey, you want to get in the squared circle and like re-engage in boxing or something? I don't know what Ray's modeling these days. I'm not sure what Ray is doing. In that mesh tank top. Yes. And some other very scantily clothing. Yeah. I'm trying to think who would probably be some of the. And honestly, I think most of it is just some past teammates, coaches. Priest Holmes? No, Priest didn't reach out. Damn. Some execs. So I'm trying to. To be honest, no one really out of the blue, because people, like, you know, I talk to Coach Vermeil every now and then. You talk to Brad. Brad reached out, but I talk to Brad every now and then. Yeah. I've really done a great job of keeping people around me, because here's if you're high maintenance, I'm probably not friends with you. Right. Because my best friends in the world I talk to like once a month. What's high maintenance? Like constant texting? If I have to talk to you every week or something like that for you not to feel like we're friends, we got an issue. I got you. Like if we catch up every 3 weeks and it's like, and we just leave off, then those are my closest friends. So, you know, like caught up with Coach Vermeil the other day. You know, we've texted over this whole process. You know, trying to think who else. You know, I got in years past. You know, here's probably the oddest one I got. Al Saunders. Oh wow! Because he wasn't my coach, right? He was on our coaching staff at Minnesota, but he was in Kansas City. But he was our offensive coordinator. And he sent me a very nice message. And so I really it was nice to hear from him.
Especially because he's on the other side of the ball. So, excuse me, to kind of get a perspective of appreciation from what an offensive coach is viewing versus defense coach was always cool. So that was a good deal because, he was so busy with offense. Him and I were never that close, as far as we didn't interact that much. Obviously, he was a great coach. We had a fantastic offense when we were there. So I think that was probably the most random one, hearing from him. But in years past, being in the finals, I heard from guys like Lynn Stiles.
Yeah.
You hear from some random execs over the years. So, it's been a cool deal, but nothing too unexpected.
What about, with the HOF induction or being at NFL honors, just that whole thing? Anybody leave you starstruck? Did you meet anybody where you're like,
no, I didn't get to meet him. But anyway, I was trying to meet the president at the Super Bowl. That didn't happen. There was Secret Service there. That sucked.
Right.
My president's here. I should probably try to meet him. Right. I got to meet George Bush in 2004. He came to training camp when I was with the Chiefs. And so here's the thing that people don't know too. Obama came to one of my key ceremonies for my foundation. So we built a house for a gentleman.
Wounded warriors?
Yeah, one of our wounded vets. So Corey, he had been he was at the State of the Union. He had met Obama in Afghanistan, and then Obama met him and Walter Reed. And so when we built Corey's house for him, or remodeled it, I should say, we had heard that Obama potentially was going to be in Arizona and that he might be coming to the key ceremony. And key ceremony is when we give our house to our recipient when it's done, right?
Yeah.
So we're sitting there, we go through the whole thing, and we've been there now. It's like an hour past since we're done. And it's hot. I mean, it was in the summer. It was hot. My kids are like dying. We had friends in town. My kids were young at the time, and I'm like, you know what? This is ridiculous. He's not coming because I'm like, Secret Service would be everywhere. This place would be locked down. There'd be security. Like they'd have to be doing security measures.
100%.
Obama's not coming. So we get back to the house. We get the kids put down. We're sitting by the pool. I think Eamon just made a picture of margaritas. So we reported a picture of margaritas. And all of a sudden, my phone rings, right? And it's our director, Alex, saying, "Hey, by the way, Obama's here."
Wow.
And then Obama, I got a video on the screen of him talking, making fun of me for not being at my own event. And I'm like, I was there. I've been there for like 6 hours. President shows up and he gets to steal all the thunder. So I'm a little mad I didn't get to meet him. And I tell people all the time, I don't care what your politics are.
Yeah.
The office of the president of the United States, man, you gotta
I'm so glad you said that.
You got to respect it and you got to appreciate it. If you get a chance to meet a sitting president, even a past president, you have to take it.
Absolutely
it is the coolest thing. I remember when I got to shake George Bush's hand, man, it was the coolest thing because, I mean, you understand why they're in the position they are.
Yeah.
He looked me in the eye, and we had like probably a 2-minute conversation. I'll probably never remember it again. But in that moment, he made me feel like I was the only person there.
Wow.
Like, asked genuine questions, like, "Hey, blah, blah, Jared, how are you doing?" Blah, blah. I'm like, "This is George W. Bush. This is cool."
It's fantastic.
So yeah, I think that's something that, you take the craziness out of politics around, and you get to go back to the history buff. You get to meet these positions that are iconic, right? It's like I really don't care about kings and queens, but if I got a chance to meet the King of England, I'm probably pretty cool.
100%. Jared Allen from the TCO radio studio. It's HOF Radio. Now, Leslie Frazier. All right, Leslie Frazier. I ran into Leslie a week ago at the Indianapolis Combine, and here's what he had to say about Jared Allen, HOF.
Just congratulations, first of all, to Jared. Just a well-deserved, tremendous player, as you and I both know. Pete, you know it as well. But what I remember, PA, is after some of those tremendous sacks, his sack celebration really got the fans going, and that was awesome to see because that meant something good was happening. So, but a lot of fun memories. Just seeing him dominate week in and week out. Did a great job.
All 6 of your seasons here were with Leslie. What'd you like playing for him?
He's genuine. I respond. I'm an authentic person. I think most people that know me know that, and I respond to authenticity. Oh, that's the word.
Authenticity.
Authenticity. There we go. Authentic people. That's where I was going with that. And so that's Coach Frazier was Coach Frazier. Leslie always is himself, right? He's a soft spoken, but he's a incredibly intelligent human being, right? Especially with football. His defense makes sense. He puts guys in the right spot to be successful. He's approachable. You felt like he genuinely cared as you, not just as a player, but as a human. And that's what I loved about him. And you could have tense back and forth. I mean, we had our fair share of matches. Pat Williams and I were just talking about it. We got into it, but nothing ever left past that. It was competitors competing, right? And at the core, we knew we both wanted the same thing. So, that's what makes a great coach in my mind is you got to know how to motivate your players, but you have to be authentic. You can't be a fraud, right? And I'll say that's what I think Frazier was best at is he's genuine himself, and guys saw that, and that made you want to play for him. And then his system worked, obviously, and he believed in his system, and you saw success in his system. And he gives guys the freedom within that system to take ownership, which some guys don't do, right? Some guys are we're going to be this call all the time, blah, 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 blah. So as, we had a good group, of vets, but, he gave us a lot of freedom within the system.
In September of 2004, the first of 136 sacks. What team was it against, and who was the quarterback?
Not Chris Carr. Yeah, Chris Carr.
Nope.
No, David Carr.
Yep.
David
Houston
Carr,
Texans.
Houston Texans. Yep.
My man David Carr was sacked 267 times in 94 games.
Yeah.
I mean, we talked about the pyramids,
yeah,
man. That's as astonishing.
Yeah, he held the ball a long time.
Good Lord. Okay, your first 3-sack game came in 2005.
Yeah.
Who was it against?
Mark Brunell with the Redskins.
Right. Yep.
And that's what their name was. They were not the Commanders then.
Correct. All right, to close here, I know you got a press conference coming up. Down memory lane we go for a second with Jared Allen. 2008 at Detroit. You had a near fight with an offensive lineman for the Lions.
Yeah.
Who was it?
Was it Gazer Cherilus or something like that? Yeah.
And the reason I bring it up because he clipped you somehow.
No,
and you were limping.
He took my knee out.
You were limping at him. You looked like you were 80 years old, like good googly goo trying to get after him.
In that moment, if I could have got to him and hit him in the face of my helmet, I would have. So I was pissed because I thought my season was done.
Wow.
So I was chasing. I believe it was Culpepper. Wasn't it Culpepper?
Yeah, he played quarterback for them.
I was chasing him on a boot, and he was on the ground, and I ran by, and he lunged, and he took me right in the knee, and I just felt my knee separate. I was just like, I thought it was done. It ended up being toward my MCL, which, us tough guys back in the day, we didn't shut it down for MCLs and pec tears and foot breaks and stuff. We put through that crap. And so, I totally tore my MCL. I was hurt. I was pissed. That was one of those just reactions you didn't care. You're just like, dude, we have to fight now. We have to fight because you just tried to end my career.
What when you see Dan Orlovsky on TV, is the first thing that comes to mind is when you chased him out of the end zone for the safety?
No, not for me, but everybody texts me about that.
It's unbelievable.
Right? And he brings it up. And then I think when he first got on ESPN, he had a picture of that play on the back of it.
Right.
So I love the fact that he embraces that. Again, every time we talk about it, people say, "Oh, you were laughing." People think I'm laughing because he ran out of the back of the end zone. I'm laughing because if I remember correctly, I think Kevin had like 4 sacks that game.
Yes.
And so he jumped out to a sack lead on me, and I'm like, if I get beat by a D tackle for sacks, they're going to cut me. Like, everybody's going to be like, this dude was not worth the money. And so I was laughing because I knew Kevin. Kevin and I were in a tight sacks race, and so I basically got a freebie chasing him out the back of the end zone, and it's a safety as I was laughing, and Kevin was pissed. He's like, that's ridiculous. I'm like, dude, I smoked the guy. First of all, it was a great pass rush. Okay, that's on them. But yeah, I think he had like 4 that game, so I was just trying to play catch up.
Lastly, you, Tony Dungy, and I will be together at Grace Church in Eden Prairie May 3rd for a Rise with the Guys. Really cool that you're doing that this year.
Yeah, I'm excited about it. I've never been to it, and I know it's been going on for a long time.
Yeah, this will be my 4th year doing it. AriseWithTheGuys.com if you're interested. Hey, man, congratulations. God bless you.
You as well, buddy. Always a pleasure.
Yep, likewise. Jared Allen, HOF Radio on KFAN.